I'm Roberto Baldwin, and this is Tomorrow Today's Sustainable Mobility Brief. The transportation world is evolving at a rate not seen in decades. The transition from fossil fuels to sustainable energy has brought with it some truly exciting opportunities, but also some confusion. I'll sift through the noise and share quick updates on the latest news, trends, and advancements that will impact our world for years to come. This week on the Tomorrow Today Briefs podcast, we have GKN Automotive's Director of Sustainability, Tom Salisbury. Tom, thank you so much for meeting with us today, for talking to us. And GKN has some big news, but before we get into that, I think the real thing that I think most people think about when they think about sustainability in the automotive world, they only think about the actual automaker. Like, what is the Ford? What is the BMW? What is the Mercedes-Benzes of the world? What are they doing? But the reality is these vehicles and these sustainability goals, they don't happen without the suppliers working together with them. And so just to start off, what does GKN supply to automakers?
Great, thanks, Roberto. Yeah, it's really, really great to be talking today. So GKN Automotive, we are a tier 1 supplier. So we supply directly to about 90% of global car manufacturers, and we are in the driveline business. So we make side shafts and prop shafts, and then also e-powertrain and also e-drive, so electric motors as well. So basically, the parts of a car which make it take the power from the engine to the wheels. That's sort of what driveline is in simple terms, I guess. And yeah, like you said, I think every car is a construct of numerous different parts which have been made by a number of different suppliers, and they all come together by the OEMs when they kind of put it together like a jigsaw, I suppose.
Yeah, I think a majority of people just think that everything that, let's say, an F-150 has is probably made by Ford. They if they look underneath something that says Ford, it's stamped Ford. Yeah. But the reality is that vehicles are actually a construct of so many different things from so many different companies that all have to come together. And I think COVID probably helped inform more and more people about that. But I still think for the most part, most people are thinking, well, Ford just makes everything. And the reality is, no.
But it also means you have, real subject matter expertise. So, we have teams of engineers and experts focused on drive shafts, or e-powertrain, or how can you really improve the torque of an e-power. So I think, and that makes sense. You have these unique expertise of these different suppliers, and when a company like Ford comes along, they can tap into the expertise and the supplier who is really focused on doing that one part, but in a really great way. Yeah,
I think I've had to replace a few transaxles in my time, so yeah, thank you. We talked a little bit about how the automakers have sustainability goals, and of course there's also global goals. Yeah, there's US based goals, but there's also the Paris Accord. There's global goals. How does GKN? How do you fit into that whole puzzle?
In a very similar way to a lot of the global car manufacturers, we're also a global company with 25,000 employees. We have 50 sites around the world, and the impact that we have on the environment, and also the impact we can have from a social impact side of things as well is significant. So if we can look at how we can improve our business, both in terms of minimizing our environmental footprint, helping our customers reduce theirs, but also being a great employer, that's significant. And I suppose we're actually in a very similar position to our customers in that they obviously have their supply chains, and so do we. And it's about how we can really collaborate, because these are, like you say, the Paris Agreement or the Sustainable Development Goals. They are significant challenges for us as society, and no one business, whether they're at the top of the supply chain or down below, no one business can solve those. So that's why I think collaboration is critical, and how we can really achieve some of these through supply chains and working together.
And GK, internally, you have your own goals as well. Like you have your own internal goals that you're working on. And I saw something recently. You made a huge achievement just from in 2023 versus 2022. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we do have our own target. So we set our sustainability strategy in 2021, so a couple of years ago. And to your point earlier around sort of how our customers sort of impact that, that was a significant part of when we're looking at what our targets are, what are the areas to focus on, or what really makes sense from a customer perspective. So we have targets across 4 pillars. So one are people, which covers things like diversity, inclusion, health and safety, climate action, which I'll come back to in a moment, responsible sourcing, so what we're doing in our supply chain and kind of looking at labour standards and things like that, and sourcing of everything from our suppliers, and then our impact, so how we're having a positive impact, so both in terms of sort of charitable partnerships at our sites around the world, but also how our products are helping the decarbonisation of the sector. But yeah, so we just launched our sustainability report, so for looking at 2023 progress, and yeah, we reduced our carbon emissions by 10.5%, which was really great. And actually last year we also had our carbon reduction and net zero targets accredited by the Science Based Targets Initiative as well. So we've now got really clear framework and targets which we know are in line with the Paris Agreement, which you mentioned, and really help give us our North Star to 10.5% is great, but actually we want to get to net zero and get to net zero by 2045.
2045, and I think people they think of that number like, well, that's pretty far away. But you're talking about we're talking about mechanical parts and electric parts, and it's not something that can be solved overnight. This is long term because you still have to be a profitable company.
Yeah, and it's also when we talk about net zero, it's not just our own operations, but also in a net zero supply chain, and critically also looking at the carbon emissions associated with the use of our products as well. So looking at the type of vehicle that our products are going into. So obviously EVs having a much lower carbon footprint than an ICE vehicle. But I think your point also around it's got to make business sense. I mean, that is absolutely critical, and I think that is, regulation, consumer expectations, and then again, how they get filtered to the expectations our customers have on us. So, should we be using renewable electricity? How are we designing our products for to be more circular, be more recyclable? How can they be repaired more easily? And I think a lot of that, society is increasingly moving in the way that this just makes. There's not a trade-off between this is just being a cost. Actually, in many cases it's a cost saving, but it's also we've got to make sure we don't meet the expectations of society, our customers, then we don't have a sustainable business model.
Let's talk a little a bit about sourcing. I know it's incredibly difficult to find, for some companies, especially if you're dealing with materials from China. Sometimes it's really difficult to find the actual real source of a material. But that's what we're hearing. But really, how difficult is it to find that? Because it seems like you have to be a detective at some point as a company in order to make sure that the materials and the items that you're getting from your suppliers are sourced responsibly. Like that seems. Do you have to hire an entire new staff? Do you have to, Are you hiring ex-detectives from?
Yeah, that'd be quite. Haven't looked at. Like you say, supply chains are really complex. And particularly when you get into different levels and you start thinking about going down to the mine level as well. I think 2 things. So firstly, another perfect example of why there needs to be greater collaboration. To tackle some of these whether it be things like conflict minerals, is not going to be something that GK and Automotive is going to be able to do single-handedly. So that's the first thing. And that's not just businesses collaborating, but civil society, governments, to tackle some of the root challenges of this. And that's I'm not saying that's easy, but that's what's needed. And then I think from our perspective, it's really about having a strong sort of due diligence program in place. So from a sort of conflict mineral perspective, we ask our suppliers who'd be in scope for, there's a kind of conflict mineral reporting template, which is like a standardized approach which you use to ask your suppliers about what smelters they're using, and then they can look at the risk of those particular smelters. So again, getting further down into the supply chain. And so we have that in place. And then obviously if you have a supplier who's not complying or not wanting to participate, then that's another question, and you have to start thinking about, okay, well, this is actually a red line to be a supplier. But I think tackling the root cause of it is something that does need to be tackled broadly, because it is a challenge.
Yeah, because I think on both fronts, both for the sustainability and ethically sourcing, it has to be essentially an international effort.
Yeah, these are global supply chains. Yeah,
because it's a global supply chain. It can't be just a few companies. It has to be everyone has to be on board, but also you have to talk. Make sure that these governments are also on board, and they're also at least trying in some cases to take care of some of the issues, especially around human rights that have popped up over the few years. And I see a lot of companies, battery companies, and and automakers, and they're working towards making sure that they get the sources that they need. They get the minerals that they need in a way that's ethically sourced, but you still have to have where these things are coming from. You still need to have pressure on those countries, essentially.
Yeah, and I think obviously batteries it's not sort of our line of work, as it were, but I think that's a particular area, and that's where you sort of start to have ideas of battery passports, which allow sort of better tracing of batteries as well, which I think I'm sure we will see, and technology is enabling greater transparency through supply chains as well. So I think technology will play quite a role in that as well.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate you coming on today. And congratulations, 10%. That's a huge deal from one year to the next.
Yeah, we'll keep going. We'll keep. I think we've one area that we're really looking to do more of is purchase more renewable electricity around the world, and that will really help us start to reduce our carbon emission, our direct carbon emissions as well. So so it's great. It's good to get 10% in the bank, and then we need to carry on, move forward towards net zero.
Purchasing electricity, that's another thing that's it's outside of your control unless it's there. It has to be there. So again, international effort. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Roberto.
Thank you. For more information about the evolution of sustainability, head on over to sustainablecareers.sae.org. And if you're not quite ready to add an EV to your household, you can check out our plug-in hybrid explainer video to help bring you up to speed on the hybrid technology and the vehicles. Be sure to subscribe and listen every week on your favorite podcast platform.
SAE International makes no representations as to the accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. The information and opinions are for general information only. SAE International does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast.